And if any of you guys do know, the sponge rub look is kind of a freeform look, but it's not freeform because you're using sponge rub. And obviously, if you want to know how to use a sponge, there's a link down below showing you how to use it. But over the time with Cam Newton, we started to see his dreadlocks to develop. And this is what's going to happen. If you have a 4B hair type and you just wash it and allow it to dry, it's going to eventually lock up. And to be honest, with anybody's hair type, even if you have straight hair, believe it or not, your hair will eventually lock up if you don't comb it. If you don't pick your hair out, it will lock up. That's just the natural course of your hair. If you have curly hair especially, it's going to want to lock up faster. Now, we've seen people with straight hair freeform before, and it doesn't look the same as people with this hair type just because it's two different hair types. But just so you know, everybody's hair can freeform, because freeforming is essentially just allowing your hair to lock up without combing your hair out. And this is when we really start to see the dreadlocks take form. We see some really thick ones coming up in the back and all the skinny ones in the front. One thing you'll notice about Cam Newton's hair, and this is with anybody who does freeform dreadlocks and allows it to freely form, is the hair will start developing skinny dreadlocks, and then eventually that will move into thicker dreads just because of congos, and then that eventually just all combines into dreadlocks. So not only are we seeing the dreadlocks being formed, but we're seeing really big sections being formed. So we're seeing congos that have just about probably 15 dreadlocks in each Congo. And this is what I was talking about. Those skinny dreadlocks will turn into thicker dreadlocks. And that's really just inevitable with doing freeform dreadlocks. So we're still seeing the progress of all these Congos being formed. And not only that, but all the skinny dreadlocks are starting to disappear. And the reason they're disappearing is because they're disappearing into the thicker dreadlocks. And that's what's really going to happen. Any dreadlock that is thick, a skinny dreadlock will migrate into it. That's just really what happens with freeform dreadlocks. Because over time, those skinny ones will find a stronger source and then just attach themselves to that. And that's just really how the hair acts. Now, this photo is closer to present day. This photo reminds me of how the Weeknd's dreadlocks looked, because we're starting to see a really thick section in the back, and then there's skinnier sections up front, but they're all still relatively thick Congos. But this gives you an idea of how skinny his dreadlocks were to begin with, because you see the tips of the dreadlocks and then now all the combination with the thickness at the bottom. But believe it or not, he actually developed some of these by wrapping some of his dreadlocks, so I wouldn't be surprised that some of his Congos were developed by rubber bands and wraps. But like we see in this last photo, he actually has all that hair on the top tied up. And I believe that with some of his other dreadlocks, that's how he started them out. And it looks like he has some single dreads on the right side of his head right there. So could he be doing some separation? That could be possible. Will he separate all of his dreadlocks in the future? I wouldn't doubt it. We've seen people do it before. It will take a lot because he has so many Congos, and I'm not sure if his single dreadlocks still have their integrity.